Hello, everybody, and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am TheOutbackAl.
I'm Yin&Jung.
I'm Chibi Noob.
I'm Envy Jitters.
And I'm CheerandCosplay.
And we're back with more spooky stuff for Halloween, though this time less spooky and more straight up horror and gore, more or less.
Yes.
We watched HBO's Spawn, one of the earliest adult animated series that were on that channel and probably all around. But, yeah. I can't remember whether this is the first actual animated anything that HBO did produce, but I think it's definitely one of their earliest, because I know they weren't around for that long back in 97, but...
I just find it funny that both the Spawn TV show and the Spawn movie came out the same year, and both had different results.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty popular at the time, and I've seen the movie, and then I've seen some of the episodes of this, so I can say there is a quality difference, without a doubt.
Not movie, though.
What would you say is the quality differences? I'm someone who has not seen anything of this franchise before.
Oh, the
so-
movie's bad.
The movie's cheesy, but I argue that it's kind of fun. So, but that's me. But it's cheesy fun.
It's like campy and weird and like not a great adaptation, but it's like, it's so bad it's kind of good kind of thing.
I like Michael J. White, who plays Spawn. I've seen him in a number of things, and I don't think I've ever watched him in a performance that wasn't in some way entertaining. So it has that going for it, and John Leguizamo is a chameleon of an actor, and will give you nightmares in that movie. But,
Okay.
you know. But yeah, so Spawn from HBO, Todd McFarlane's Spawn, as it's more commonly referred to as, I think. So this came out in 97, right about like the time that like a lot of 90s comics that had like a very particular style. This is very much in that style.
So 90s.
Yeah, it's like that sort of like neo-noir. Everything is like dark and everything happens in alleys and on top of gargoyles and all that sort of stuff. Has anyone had any experience with this property at all? I know Kozi had never even heard of it last week.
I have read a significant amount of the comics, and I did see this series before, but it was years ago. So I probably saw it in like freshman or sophomore year of college or something. But yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the franchise and the character overall.
I'm familiar with the character, I'm familiar a little bit with his backstory, but I've never read or seen anything about it. He made a guest appearance in Mortal Kombat 11, so that was interesting.
Oh, true. Oh, and I have seen the live action movie, as I mentioned.
I know nothing.
Yeah, also coming in blind.
Yeah, I think I primarily know about this character through nerd osmosis, as I like I haven't read every DC comic book or Marvel comic book, but I feel like I could name 90% of the characters in those universes simply because of just that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
this
it's
is kind
crazy. Like, I feel like I've read more comics than you, but you
you
can name
have.
more characters than me.
but I absorb information like that. I think we discussed. I'm a really good like test taker. Like my memory's really good for like just niche information. But yeah, outside of that, not as familiar with this character. But yeah, this was an interesting watch. I said DC and Marvel. This is actually not even either. It's from Image Comics, I believe, and the creator of it is actually the president of Image Comics now, Todd McFarlane. So good for him.
And before he created Spawn, or around the same time, he also made another famous Marvel character, Venom.
Yeah, that you know what I see it.
They're
I
so
can see,
similar, right?
yeah.
And like the art style and everything.
Art style, kind of like the facial design a little bit.
Yeah, the sort
I
of
would say.
pseudo Spider-Man mask kind
Like,
of deal.
yeah, the way that
Yeah.
Venom looked in the 90s, which probably a lot of it was the Todd McFarlane stuff, like, is so much the same vibe.
Yeah. I'd say even a little bit looking at, like, from what I know of the movie and this and what we saw here, like, a little bit similar Powers-esque with the Hellspawn suit thing and the Venom symbiote a little bit. Feels like there's a little bit of overlap, but like a different flavoring kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this show is about Spawn, who is Al Simmons, a former CIA assassin who was killed, burned alive, went to hell, and then made a deal with a demon to come back and see his wife in exchange for being a hellspawn who would help lead the armies of the devil to Earth one day. And we get a countdown clock at the beginning of every episode as we count down to Doomsday. So, out the gate, dark ass series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely feels like an HBO show.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I don't know if anyone remembers, there was like a thing, I forget what the exact quote was, but the creators of Game of Thrones admitted in an interview that there was like a quota of like, there has to be a certain number of topless women per minute of Game of Thrones. And I didn't realize that
It's
It
every
applies
that-
to
that
cartoons
quota
too.
yeah, that quota
Yeah.
goes all the way back to 97, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
it's always been that way.
that being said, I do think the art style is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I do
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
the animation, especially for the time, is actually really clean.
I like the contrast and like of the colors.
Yeah.
And like it's a really interesting art style for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly thought I was sort of looking at like a live action comic as I
Yeah.
was watching it because of the shading.
Yeah, I think that was the idea behind it.
I mean, it's called Todd McFarlane's Spawn, so I imagine if he wasn't the creator of the show, he was like a big producer. So I imagine he just went into the studio, put out his comic or graphic novel, was like, here, make this move, make this animated. Just don't worry about the art style or anything. Just copy what I have here.
He is the creator of the show, so he did have a lot of creative control over it. And he even does the little opening dialogue.
Oh my god,
for-
I hate it. I hate his little explanations.
I think that was just a trend in the 90s, because I think I told you there was like, it's not dissimilar to, I think, like, what was it, like America's Most Wanted and like Unsolved Mysteries and like those other, like, what was the one with Riker from Star Trek? He's been mean to hell on YouTube. The you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm glad someone does.
Oh, you don't?
God. You know
oh my
what? I'm
god,
just
you gotta
gonna-
look it up.
I'm just gonna put in some clips. Like, everyone knows, like,
What really happened here? Who was the cowboy who confronted Johnny and Larry that night? Was the old woman in on it, too? Could Danny have been hallucinating? But if Dan was hallucinating, who ate house food?
I'll show it to
It
you
was
later.
one of those kinds of shows.
Yeah, it was something. But like a lot of those shows had like a host who like introduced a story, and then they did like a recreation of like something that happened, and then the host comes back at the end and is like, well, what do you think? Is this a something or a blah blah blah? And it was all that. I think we've kind of like done away with
So like
that
Rod
a little
Sterling from the Twilight Zone.
Actually, that's a good example too. Yeah.
Or like,
Um,
what was it called? Beyond Belief, Truth or Fiction?
That's the
Yeah.
one I'm talking about.
So
I think.
the thing is like that is still a thing with a different Star Trek actor. William Shatner is still doing that with The Unexplained. It's one of the Discovery shows, or at least he was for a while. But
Yeah, Jonathan Frakes, Beyond Belief. Look up any of his little in-betweens. They're so much fun.
He also was the voice of Xanatos in
Yeah.
Gargoyles.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Goliath's here as Spawn, so...
yes,
So it
Um,
all
So-
wraps around.
wow.
Oh yeah,
at that.
I mean, more than you think, because this was also produced by Eric Radomski, who did Freakazoid and a number of other shows that we've been watching recently, and Shirley Walker did the music for it, and she's the main composer for Batman the Animated Series and some of those ones, so... yeah,
That
there's a
makes sense.
lot of stuff that was all happening at the time. It's interesting to think that this came out around 97, so they were probably like making it around 96 or so. That's about when Gargoyles ended, so Keith David's available. It's about when Freakazoid ended, so Eric Radomski's available, and this is like the project that they did afterwards. I do think they were probably working on some other, especially Keith David was probably working on some other stuff in between, but it's an interesting little
Keith did so
timeline we're
much
making.
stuff.
I do have to say, even though it does like look a bit like a movie comic and stuff like that, like I remember it's been a while since I've read the Spawn comics, but I remember the art looking very, very different from the show. I remember it looking way more colorful and like just drawn very differently.
We do get a couple shots of it whenever Todd is like drawing in the beginning of each episode, and it's like it's kind of one of those things of like it's very detailed and gritty looking.
Yeah, like it looks quite different. I think they almost like made this look more like, I don't know, I don't want to say Batman the Animated Series, but I think some of the dark aspect, you know, like it has more of that vibe
Like,
a little bit.
This was in the years of like everything is being directly influenced.
Yeah,
by
it feels
kinda-
almost influenced by that, right?
Yeah.
every time Spawn squinted his eyes, that's like the Batman squint from the animated
Right.
series.
Like, it felt more like that than, like, what I remember from the comic panels actually looking like. And I think the story is very different, too. Like, I don't think the chain of events are that similar. Like, it covers roughly the first, like, 20 or 30 issues of the comics. But I remember, like, I think the comics are very different in the plot.
Just to go back to the intro bit, those weren't in the ones you put in the drive.
No.
Oh, they cut that out?
Oh, really?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a little thing where he like had a minute-long blurb of just explaining like a like, what do you think? Like, what would you do if
It was so
you know
silly.
you were given a choice of something? Blah blah blah. It's like,
You're probably lucky you missed it. It's okay.
yeah, it's not great, but
I actually was really intrigued with the storyline, so I looked up more episodes and just finished off the season because it was only 6 episodes.
oh yeah, they
Oh.
were pretty short. I think there's only 18 episodes overall.
So I did end up seeing those. I was like, why were these cut out of the first 3? What is happening?
To be fair, the ones I put in the drive, because not everybody has HBO Max here, so the ones I put in the drive, I did have to get off the internet, and likely whoever put them up just cut them
They
because
didn't
I don't
like
think
them.
I don't know how many people actually enjoyed those. So they're a bit superfluous. But yeah, there's only 18 episodes in the overall series, so this is a pretty quick watch for Halloween and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
they
yeah.
put out like 6 episodes a year, and you gotta admit, like for 97, this is really good stuff, and I can tell the budget really went into a lot of the animation, even if it's a little more simplistic, let's say, or a little cleaned up than what the comic was in that. It's
It
still
looks
really
great.
good stuff.
Like, the quality's really high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little bit of
I-
that issue we had last week of like some flashing imagery might be.
Oh,
I don't think
yes.
it's.
A little bit.
I don't think it's as bad as Vampire Hunter D was with the epilepsy strobe light effects, but I feel like some photosensitive people might have a little bit of an issue here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the color palette. I'm not really sure. Please, Ian, let me know if you already said this. If they were just more going for the vibe with like the darker color palette, because like I can understand like wanting everything to like be more colorful and let it like pop, but I feel like if they're going for something a bit more grim dark, I feel like the more subdued color palette is probably makes more of like a thematic choice.
Yeah.
Makes more sense
Yeah.
to me.
I feel like it definitely was a choice, and I don't think it was a bad one. I think it was a pretty good choice for like the way they decide to do the show, because I feel like the comics are a little more campy than the show is, and I feel
That's
like
fair.
the show was trying to be more like gritty than campy, and I get
Yeah.
like a bit of a like. I mean, the comics are so gritty, but like it's very different in the tone, I feel. So I feel like they were going for something different with the show, and it worked.
Yeah, makes sense.
I feel like they used a lot of like flat black. And
Yeah.
most
Black
cartoons-
and yellow.
most cartoons don't use black. They'll use like purple or brown. And this
Yeah.
like some shots, I swear it was just black with just like his eyes showing.
Yeah, that definitely like a style that and I know Batman was using a lot. I mean, like plenty of people like constantly talk about like they drew it all on black paper, then added
Yeah.
like because it was supposed to be so dark, and like I think this has a bit of a similar vibe to it, though I think especially compared to the stuff that came out in like 91 92 with Batman, it looks a little cleaner because I think they might have been using some digital techniques at this point. But I like the I don't know, it's I feel like this is the exact thing that everyone says or like would point to if they were like, what was like the dark 90s kind of
Yeah,
style.
Spawn is a good example.
Yeah, and I think especially but I feel like whenever like people talk about it, they're like, oh, it's so cheesy and so like, yeah. I kind of feel like this just works in a weird way. Like, it's a little bit cheesy, there's a touch of camp, but it's also like it takes itself so seriously, I have to take it seriously too.
Yeah, like some of the dialogue is kind of cheesy, but it's like I feel so immersed in the world that like I accept it, and it like kind of has a ring to it. You know,
Yeah.
it feels good. You know,
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think people sometimes have difficulty meshing together like some seriousness with like some really like pulpy stylized dialogue.
yeah,
and, like,
pulpy's a good way
Yeah.
to put it, and it works for it.
and pulpy is kind of difficult because you
Yeah.
really have to get a really perfect tone for it without it becoming silly, and like that's a very tough line to straddle, and this one does it very well.
Yeah, I will say, like, cheesy, pulpy dialogue is something that I feel like, particularly for superhero content, it's kind of something that, like, you can't really have it, like, that genre without. So, I don't know. To me, like, I expect it, so if I don't get those lines, I'm like, what is this? This is lame. But that's just a personal preference.
No, I can see
But
that.
also, it's just kind of like, I don't know, like, just hearing these, like, words being said in, like, such a serious context with, like, because this is a particularly serious, dark show with a lot of, like, really bad shit that has happened to the main character, the family, other people, just, like, in the general vicinity, and children, and
It's
you
all
get
the
it.
worst
Everyone.
shit.
it's all the worst shit. I'm like, this is just kind of like, yeah, it's cheesy, but it's still going with the tone.
Yeah.
So it works.
I mean, and also, let's be frank, Keith David just makes it work. I mean, he
Yeah.
has
He's
the
so
perfect
good.
voice for Spawn.
The man sells it.
Yes.
I feel like if anybody else was to say those lines, it wouldn't be as effective, but he just has, like, he has the perfect voice for the role. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
I feel like there could be some other people who could play it pretty good, though it's very big shoes to fill no matter what, if they were to make another animated series out of this.
They're making another live action.
Well, yeah, and that'll, who knows what's going to happen. But honestly, I think the majority of the voice cast, there's a couple lines here and
Oh
there.
my god, that scream in the beginning for that random man.
Yeah.
It's like, ah! That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's the 90s. There was going to be a couple that were going to be like, but
yeah, but most of it's pretty well acted.
I feel like there were a lot of shows that came out late 80s, early 90s that really like upped the standard for like a lot of voice work stuff, especially like in animation and that. And like we're kind of seeing the results of it here a little bit. I feel like most of the people in this show are doing an amazing job. We talked about Keith David a little bit, but there's some, like, just generally speaking, I feel like most of the other main characters, they really work well. And their delivery is really good. How did everybody feel about hearing the butcher from Hey Arnold as the mob boss?
Is that who that was?
Yeah.
You knew you recognized it, didn't you?
Yes, I knew. I knew I heard that voice before. I didn't know where I heard it from.
That was
Okay.
Mr. Green. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He's also the donut-eating detective in the show. So it's like he
that's
has
cool.
range, and I'm like, you got range. But then you decided to go with, wait, which one came out first? This or Hey Arnold? When did Hey Arnold come out?
I think around the same time.
Yeah.
96 was the first episode.
Oh,
so.
Hey Arnold came out before this.
That
Mr.
was
Green
first.
joined the mob.
Oh, damn. 96 was
I mean, he is the butcher.
Yeah. Oh my God, this works too well.
Damn.
But yeah, that's like the same voice, and that was the one thing that was like, and plus Lil from Rugrats is here in various roles
I
as
did
well.
hear that.
Yeah.
I did hear that.
That whole sequence was at the beginning of episode 2 with the kids in the ice cream truck. I heard like half of the voice
Yeah.
cast.
Oh yeah,
for
I
Rugrats.
heard half the cast too. I was like, oh god, all the Rugrats are getting kidnapped. No.
It's a fucking dark show.
Yeah.
Trying to
Do
think.
you want to talk plot?
Yeah, I mean, well, we got a little bit of the premise in that. Overall plot here primarily is about Spawn, Al Simmons, figuring out that he's been dead for 5 years and now he's back as a soldier of hell, and him essentially dealing with. He's kind of like this. These are 3 episodes where he's essentially acclimating to being alive again and realizing the world had to move on without him and all this shit that's kind of stacked up over the years. And then we have like subplots with his, I guess we call her ex-wife. How do you describe it? His widow.
Yeah.
His widow.
Yes.
His
Um,
widow.
his
That's a
widow.
good
I was
word.
like, there's a word for this. What is it?
Yeah, his widow who remarried his supposed best friend and had a kid, and then he NTRs himself watching them have sex. In the
Yeah, I was like watching, like, dude, you don't want to see this.
That's so
You don't
unfortunate.
want to see this. There's also some shady political government conspiracy stuff going on in the background. We don't have a lot of information on them just yet in the first 3 episodes. Actually, we watched half the season, it feels like.
I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of figured with context clues that the child killer is the bastard son of the senator.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they pretty much said it. And they
Yeah.
framed a guy for the killings that he did, which Wanda, the widow, helped to, I guess, get the charges dropped because the police planted evidence and faked the whole thing. So, I mean, good for her. She's the one person doing good in this world, and everyone else is involved with CIA black ops and mob hits and everything else. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're also getting... What's the character's name?
Who?
The guy with the white beard. I always forget his name. But he's like kind of like narrating the guy Spawn's journey.
Oh my god, I don't remember his name either.
What's his
Todd
name?
McFarlane.
Not Todd McFarland. We got his thing. I ain't worried about that.
Let's just call him Steve.
Cagliostro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought he was... Oh, his name...
Have they even
Cog
said
for
his
short.
name though?
No. I remember him from the movie. Yeah, Cog is... That's a lot easier to say than Cagliostro. I figured it was going to be like something like Steve or something like that. Just
Oh
a
my
short
God.
name. But yeah, so Cog is giving his spiel. I feel like, isn't his character like the angel on Spawn's shoulder and the Violator is the devil on Spawn's shoulder kind of thing?
essentially.
Yeah.
Violator's creepy as fuck and then has honestly a pretty intimidating demon whisper voice monster form thing, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
I take him a lot more seriously than I do the movie version.
Yeah.
He's pretty weird.
I mean, I think that's the whole point. He's like the
Yeah.
worst of humanity.
He's like the scum, yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's personify
Like
just-
human garbage
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we have a couple of the supporting characters with some of the homeless people who like Spawn essentially lives with. But I don't think we go too deep into that. I hate to say it, they're mostly fodder for hitmen and that overkill guy to show up and just mess with.
There's the guy with the beard that tries to defend him, and then there's the black guy with the hat that basically rightfully casts doubt on him. So it's kind of, do you defend Spawn? Do you protest against him? Because every time he shows up, someone dies.
I'm trying to figure out what their names are. I think one of them
Bobby
is Bobby
and Jason.
And Jason. Okay.
I think so. Hang on. Let me.
No. Jason.
Nope, not
Jason's the
not
bad.
Jason.
Jason Wynn is the bad guy.
Bobby is one of them. Bobby is one of
Yeah.
them.
What was the other guy's name? I'm like looking through the cast list here.
Are you talking about the dudes?
The two homeless guys.
Are you talking about the guy who's
Yeah.
nice to him or the other?
Well, I'm looking. Yeah, I think.
I remember it started with a G, the guy who's nice to him.
G. Oh wait, that does sound familiar. Hang on. G.
Like, something.
Garib.
Yeah, him.
Garib is such a weird name.
That was
But yeah, that guy.
That was the guy who was nice to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Garib and Bobby. Bobby's gonna be easier to remember.
Yeah.
Bobby.
It's probably like a biblical name or something.
Name with Bobby.
Yeah. But yeah. We get a bit of action here and there, though it's mostly, it feels like, for as dark and as like graphic as some of the stuff is, it's also like,
It's more introspective a little bit.
well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking like specifically about like the action sequences and some of the more graphic
Oh, okay.
stuff. There is a lot more of like implied imagery than I thought there was going to be. I thought there was
Yeah.
going to be a lot more just straight up gore, but like a lot of the stuff is like done off screen and then you see the aftermath
Yeah.
kind of
true.
thing, which might be, I mean, this was HBO, so they didn't have to deal with like the normal kind of like censors that regular like cable TV would or like network TV would have to deal with. But I think they still probably had to be careful with how they showed like a lot of the more violent and graphic elements of this show.
I think part of it might have just been a creative decision.
Yeah, but I'm thinking I have seen some of that stuff in other spots. I don't know, like if you guys think back to like The Dark Knight,
Right.
it's a very violent movie. It has a lot of dark stuff, but it's still like PG-13.
Yeah.
And I think they did like one of the ways that they were able to do that was kind of implying a lot of the violence instead of actually showing it. Like, hey, let's bring up Michael J. White, the scene where the Joker kills him after he gives the "you want to know how I got these scars" first speech. They don't show him dying. They just show him dead afterwards.
Yeah.
And it kind of leaves it up to the imagination of like, ooh,
What happened?
it was so bad they couldn't show us. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's almost darker than
Yeah.
Well,
actually showing
and also I also think that these 3 episodes were meant for us as the audience to slowly understand Spawn's backstory, his role, and
Right.
watching him accept the fact that his life that is as he knew it is gone, and he's doomed to become a literal agent of evil. And
Yeah.
the fact that, like,
Yeah.
you know, in episode 2, or was it 3, I forget, with the cyborg, he basically got his ass kicked and was like, well, screw this, I'm gonna go back to the CIA and get my guns. And then he literally off screens him, and like you said, you don't see him kill the cyborg, but then Tony opens up the car and his whole parts come out, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he did a number with him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time it's kind of the same idea as horror movies, where it's like, it's better not to directly show the monster, at least in the beginning, because our imagination will fill in the blanks to be way scarier
Yeah.
or way more violent or horrible in this case than anything that you could actually show.
I think they call that the Jaws effect.
Yeah.
There's probably another
Yeah.
name for it, but I think that's generally what it's looked at now.
I mean, they did that with Jaws because the mechanical shark didn't work half the time. So
But
they
it worked
like,
in their
had, like, a-
favor.
Yes, it did. Because because of that. Because if you don't see it, where is it? You never know.
Yeah. And like an actual shark isn't that scary, but our imagination of a shark is.
Yeah, that shot when it comes out of the water, though, one of the best jump scares in movies.
Sure.
If you haven't seen it before.
Spoiler.
yeah.
Oh, come on, you know
Comes out
the
of
shark.
water.
Yeah, you know it's gonna happen at some point. It's a shark movie. Have you not seen it?
No, I have. I was just messing with you.
Okay, all right. I was about to be like, you haven't seen fucking Jaws?
Obviously.
I think that one would get me disowned.
Hold up, what?
I mean, it's on the list.
have you not seen it?
Is it?
No, I haven't seen it.
No!
It's on the list.
Well, it's on the list.
Okay, it's
Hey,
on the
next
list.
4th of July, let's do this.
Yeah.
It's a 4th of July movie. I think
It
we're allowed to
is.
say it. Yeah. So, a little off topic, but yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of good things to talk about with this. And I think ultimately we end up talking about other things because other things are also good. And you can't help but kind of be like, oh, isn't this cool that this? And then you think about the other. I don't know. I'm just trying to explain tangents, I guess.
It's inevitable.
So,
Explanation:
I think
ADHD.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely for me.
maybe I guess like the sort of lack of violence, at least like more on screen, is maybe also just to like not really paint him more as a villain and definitely keep him more in the morally gray anti-hero kind of space. Just because like I feel like gratuitous violence coming from the hero is probably like a little bit going to skew some viewers' views very much. But that's neither here nor there. I don't even know if that's right. I'm just throwing shit at the wall.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, this isn't like a show for the faint of heart because it does go to some pretty like nasty places. Oh, I was looking around. We saw him briefly at the end of episode 3. A character named Chapel, who was involved with Spawn before he died, and like he's gonna be a big character. We were talking when we were watching that you were like Overkill is like another like stereotype of like a lot of 90s comics of like just the giant dude just covered in.
He's so familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, because that's like 90% of the Rob Liefeld characters that he published.
Yeah.
And then Chapel was made by Rob Liefeld. So,
Yeah.
yeah, everything's connected somehow.
Did we see? I don't remember if this was in the episodes in the drive or ones I watched later. Did we see Chapel's scene at the strip club?
Yeah, that was the
Yes,
end of
that
episode
was
3.
Yeah.
Man's got issues.
Yeah, it was.
Everyone
I mean,
in this show has issues.
I mean, PTSD kind of does that to you.
That was
Yep.
a lot of PTSD
Yeah.
right there.
And I couldn't tell if he was getting off to his PTSD.
Right, that's what made it like really uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, yes, but I also really like the Apocalypse Now homage with the ceiling fan and stuff.
Yeah.
Saigon. Fucking Saigon. So what did you guys like best about this? Or I guess like least about this?
Wait, best or least?
Either or.
We switched up.
Get an idea of what people were really enjoying here. I think for me, a lot of it was just the kind of like, honestly, the tone and vibe of the whole thing.
Yeah.
that I really enjoyed.
I like pulpy, gritty.
Yeah, we don't get enough of them that are really good nowadays.
Yeah, it was like a very good rendition of that sort of genre.
Yeah.
I think it did it very well.
I like how every single time Spawn threatens somebody, it's always something about putting their face where their ass is. It's like, I'm gonna put your smile inside your colon or something else like that. And yet Keith David makes it work. The delivery works.
Doesn't even sound gay coming from him. I like, more than the animation, I liked is it still called cinematography in animation? I guess like
I don't know the
Yes.
shot composition.
frame composition, mise en scene.
Yo,
I don't know.
Lee.
I just I like how the shots were drawn.
I would say that I agree with you guys, like, sort of like color palette, tone, and sort of like how it was like drawn and presented. I also like the diversity with the characters. That was nice and refreshing. You know, it was a decent show. I think, like, I'm not honestly, like, and maybe this is just kind of a gripe with me and HBO in general. I'm not very particularly fond of nudity in most of my content, but this is HBO, so I'm not that surprised. But that's just kind of like a personal thing.
I mean, mine is probably the animation and the voice performances. I mean, I do like the tone. I understand why he was, a little bit, I don't want to say whiny, but he wasn't what I was expecting Spawn to be. But then I think by the end of, yeah, I guess, yeah, but by the end of episode 3, I think he's got the guns, he's got, the full swagger. I think he's gonna become the Spawn that we all know and love. Just, trauma deals the best results, I guess. Don't take that out of context.
I mean, what superhero doesn't have a tragic backstory?
Yeah.
Booster Gold?
Nice pool.
Nice pool. Well, he's gone. He didn't make it.
Did not.
No.
So we might as well wrap into some final thoughts. I think I don't think this is for everybody, because again, subject matter and some of the tone and like other things like that might put some people off. This is a very dark show. But if you're cool with that kind of thing, this show kind of kicks ass. I think I'm a full yay here. I do want to watch the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm an absolute yay. I always loved Spawn, love the comics, love the show. I definitely want to do a full rewatch of the whole show, and I remember now how much I enjoyed it the first time too. And I don't know, I like a lot of the themes of the show, and I like a lot of the animation and the tone, like everybody else said. And like I said, I just love Spawn as a character, and I'm looking forward to rewatching the rest of it, because there's a lot that I don't remember, and there's a lot that I also confuse with the comics, so it's like a bit of a jumble in my head, so it'll be fun to watch the rest of the episodes.
I say this is a yay. Very well made show, very well voice acted. Probably will not be going on to watch the rest of it, but what I saw of it was pretty good. So,
yeah, I mean, I can say that if you're a fan of the comics, I mean, maybe there's a few story changes here or there, but I think in terms of if you want an accurate look from the comic or graphic novels, this is pretty much it. Because, you have the creator in charge. So this was basically his vision, what he wanted to see. So for better or worse, this is what you're going to get. And I think if you like, dark, crazy comics, I think this will be right up your alley. I give it a light yay, but if you're a fan of Spawn, I think you've probably already seen it. So,
yeah, I'll give it a yay. Like I said, I was interested enough to keep watching it. I was like, I'll watch another episode or two, and then I was like, oh, there's only 3 episodes left in this season. I'll just finish the season. That being said, this is not a show for binging. It is super heavy.
Yeah.
So, I would like to finish it. Just, I think I need a break first.
Get a little palate cleanser.
I've binged heavy shows before. You just gotta have the right mindset.
Yeah, I think I need, some Bluey for a bit.
Yeah.
You're gonna go Spawn, Bluey Spawn?
That might be the only way.
I don't know. Doesn't Bluey get heavy?
I feel like I've heard that it does.
Yeah, it talks about stuff you wouldn't expect a preschool show to talk
Okay,
about.
But
how about
it handles them in a way that preschoolers can tolerate, so it's easy to stomach.
I think you need, like, no heavy at all. How about Spawn Cocoa Melon Spawn?
Oh god, no.
No, that's just nightmare fuel. Cocomelon's nightmare fuel.
It's heavy in that it weighs on my subconscious.
As someone who has a young cousin that has watched Cocomelon with them, I swear they put something in the show to brainwash the kids because like it gets their full undivided attention and they don't turn away from it at all. So I don't know what it is, man.
It's like visual cocaine.
It's hypnotizing.
I'm happy to not know.
Is there a lot of singing
Yes.
involved? That's why. There's so much music.
So what I'm hearing is we need Spawn the musical. Yes?
I would be interested.
We mentioned that there's going to be a new adaptation as far as a movie goes. 2019, McFarlane revealed that there will be 2 animated shows based on the character, one for kids and the other for adults.
For kids?
That was 5 years ago. I don't know if it's still going through, but that is going to be really...
What would it be like?
All I'm thinking is Saturday Morning Watchmen.
Oh my god, yes.
That
It would have to be.
like, you know, weirdly enough, that it kind of reminds me of that a little bit of like, because Watchmen's also kind of pulpy, and like got that like neo-noir kind of like feel to
It's
it.
done in a
It's
very different way.
It's much more nostalgic.
Yeah, it's done very differently than Spawn. It's definitely not that 90s gritty like feel, but...
Well, it was 85. So I don't think we got to the gritty 90s yet.
Yeah, it
And to be
wasn't
fair-
in that era of the 90s comics.
Yeah, to be fair, I think that gritty era of the 90s comics was influenced by Watchmen and
It
some of the other
was,
things
but
that
it
were coming
definitely
out at the time. They were
transformed it
like-
into something very different.
Yeah, they were
than
like,
Watchmen.
let's take, this was awesome, let's take it even further.
And like Watchmen was part of that like sort of British wave that had its
Yeah,
own
yeah.
style, like Grant Morrison and
Gaiman.
Gaiman,
Yeah.
yeah.
And more. We'll say more.
Others, Peter
Other people would,
Milligan.
yeah.
Milligan. Have you ever read Milligan's stuff? He was a good one. He's underrated. I
Remind
think.
me some of his?
He did like.
So I might just not know the author.
Shade the Changing Man.
I've heard of that one.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going off on comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll go off on comics every now and then. That's fine.
We are talking about a comic book show.
Yeah, might as well. So, yeah, that was Spawn. We got one more week of spooky season left, and what better thing to end on than a something silly? Hey, Cece, you need a palate cleanser? How about next week when we? Yeah, carry on. We're gonna be watching Supernatural the animation.
Yay.
I haven't watched this. I've heard.
Oh boy!
I don't know. I'm unsure. I'm unclear about like is this good? Is this bad? Like I have
It's
no
something.
idea. I don't want to know. I want to go in cold. I want to go in cold. But it's like I've never felt like I got a consistent like this is a good thing or a bad thing kind of
I mean,
thing.
it only got like what 1 or 2 seasons.
It's a thing. I think it got one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, interested to see. Hope that you're going to be interested too. and
Maybe we
we'll-
should find it in Japanese.
You don't want to hear Jared Padalecki doing his thing, or is it because Dean's not voiced by Dean?
I
Yeah.
originally saw it in English.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see what I'm able to find because I don't know that it's on most of the regular streaming things, so I might have to.
No, it is not.
I'm
You're
gonna
have to dig.
You'll
I'm
find it in 8 parts on YouTube.
I must set sail upon the 7 seas once more, me hearties.
I'm
Anyway.
sure the Tumblr girlies got you.
I'm sure they
Oh
do.
yeah,
I'm
they
sure
probably do.
Anyway,
Just gotta go digging through the Super Hulock for a
Anyway,
bit.
that's next week. Come back for that next week. And then we'll also be letting you know what we're going to be doing for November, December, and how we're finishing out the year with all the stuff that we're going to be doing. Come back. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoy this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!